Alright guys, back with another video. I wanted to go ahead and touch base on this since I made my last video to help some people out with some questions that they had. I actually did this mod due to the fact that when you turn the traction control off, it doesn't disable the traction control. Now you get that code and it pops up, but when you go to spin your tires in the dirt or whatnot, you're trying to get unstuck from something, it'll actually keep throttling your truck down. And I've actually had quite a few times where I got stuck because of that situation. Now what you can do is you can actually hold it for another like 10 seconds, I believe it was, and you'll see while I'm holding it, still holding, and you see it says StabiliTrak off now. So now it's in a mode, and it actually popped up. Ignore my check engine light, I got to do some trans work, go figure, Chevy. But anyways, so now that you have the traction control light as well as the stability light, you will have a full traction control delete, if you will, but only until 30 miles an hour. Once you hit 30 miles an hour, that light actually goes back away and the traction control kicks back into that kind of 50% situation, if you will. So if you want to completely get rid of this, just disable that again. I actually have a button right here. It's not the prettiest thing in the world. Obviously you guys could do, if you don't have four-wheel drive, you could do a little button here. You could do something, prettier somewhere else or whatever. I just went with this just because this is a work truck and I just need it for utility more so than I need it for, looks. But I also didn't hard mount this, and nor did I hard mount this because I'll probably end up changing them and making them a little bit nicer down the road. But if you look, when I flick this switch right here, those lights come off. And now I can do, burnouts, you can do whatever you want, spin around, drifting. I mean, not that this is really the truck for that, but ever since I've done that mod, I haven't had to get stuck or get pulled out or anything. Now, what I did with this was I ran, if you see this switch right here, try to figure out the best way to word this. So if you see this switch right here, you got these two wires that come down, right? I actually ran these. Now I just use speaker wire because I just connected it to, it's a low voltage circuit. It's nothing that's like pushing a bunch of amps out or anything crazy. So I just ran it to speaker wire because that's what I had. Professionally, I definitely recommend, a little bit different setup, but like I said, this is just a work truck for me. I just wanted to kind of share what I did with y'all so you have that. So I actually just ran this to one of the wires. If you will, this is kind of like a light switch in a sense. So if you look at this, like I said, it's not the prettiest setup in the world. When you get to the ABS sensor right here, so where you get to the ABS sensor, this is the front left wheel speed sensor. I actually just cut this wire right here. Let's see here. So I cut this wire and I ran, let me see, let me draw a little picture to show you what I did, make it a little bit easier. Not the best, not the easiest location to see. So let's see here, go ahead and grab this. Oops. All right, so what I did here was I have this switch. Let me put you guys up here. I actually have this switch right here, if you will, and there's two wires coming out of it. And then let's just say that this is the truck to make it easy, and the wheel. So these two wires run through. There's actually a little access hole in the bottom of the cab. I'll show you guys how to get through. And then here's your wheel speed sensor. So you have your two wires, right? This one stays to the truck. Don't even worry about that one. This one, you're gonna cut the second wire. Ignore this, this is a scratch off. So we got our two wires. You're gonna cut that one wire that I was showing you, and I'll get back to in a second so it's not super confusing. And you're actually just, instead of this wire being connected, you're just gonna run this wire right here and this wire right here. So now when you have the switch on, it completes this circuit, if that makes sense. So to go, up here through the thing and back and through, and it's like you didn't do anything to it. When you switch it off, it actually breaks that connection inside of here, so it's no longer making a connection, and now it's open. It's like this. So now you're not getting a mile per hour reading or anything like that from the wheel, and it's turning, so it disables the entire system. So when it disables the entire system, now you can, like I said, if you want to do burnouts or if you want to drift your truck for whatever reason or mess around off-road, the biggest thing for me, like I said, is I'm not getting stuck anymore. When I had the the OEM, you know, just the OEM version, and I would disable the TCS, or even when I did the 10-second hold and I disabled the TCS, I would still end up getting stuck. Now, you know, some of that was also, you know, the tires or the front wheel drive was acting up at the time. I had I can actually show you at some point, but I had an issue where my four-wheel drive, my front end, I had to actually take it apart, and there was a little teeny tiny washer. And I think they've already touched base with that on some other videos and forums and stuff, but if you guys are interested, I can probably touch base on that some more. But pretty much when you split the front end apart, there's a little teeny tiny washer. It's like a thrust washer that prevents anything from going side to side. That was actually completely destroyed and deteriorated. So I fixed my front end on my truck for like $30, something that the dealership might quote you, you know, $2-3 grand on. And I'm not exactly saying, like, they might not charge you that much, but the point was I fixed my front end for 30 bucks. So, you know, that was also another factor in why I was getting stuck. Obviously that. But the other issue is, even after I fixed my truck, you know, as far as the front end goes, I was still having some issues with, you know, you go to get out of a hole and you're trying to, you know, gas it through or, you know, pull out slowly. And as soon as it starts noticing wheel slip, one wheel spinning faster than the other, it actually cuts throttle. So then your throttle bogs down and then you're kind of, you know, digging your own hole. So with this mod, it completely disables that. You don't have to worry about that anymore, and it's at the flip of a switch. So whenever you want it done, you just flip that switch and you're all good to go. Now, like I said, with that in mind, you know, you can get a different button. It's just a on-off button. It's really all you need. It's normally for, like, you know, sending power to, like, for instance, an LED bar. You know, you would put 12 volt on one side and ground on the other side, but you can use the switch for the same thing. You can just put you know, ground and ground, and it'll work the exact same way. It just won't have power and ground going to one side or the other. So you can just look at it like it's a wire break. But anyways, so like I was saying, if you refer to that diagram, if you need to, you know, rewind, pause, look at it. But here's that wire cut, and then in a different section on the other side is actually where you see right here, really bad. You know, hard to see, but this is that wire cut that goes to the switch, and then up here is actually the other cut wire, the other side, where it runs to the switch as well. Now I'm going to try to tuck this back up. Like I said, not the prettiest thing in the world. Obviously, you know, I could solder it, heat shrink it, make it look a lot nicer, but this was just something quick to do and to experiment with. Sorry. To see if, first of all, if it would even work, but on top of that, you know, like I said, it's just a work truck. So if I have to end up keeping this truck and stuff, I'll go over it and, you know, clean it up, make it a lot nicer or whatnot. But for now, you know, this is the way it is. Now, as far as the access hole, there's actually an access hole underneath. If you pull this floor mat up and you lift this spot, I'm gonna try to do this without breaking anything with one hand. So if you actually lift this guy up and then you lift up the floor mat a little bit, this is actually where you can run those wires through. So if you imagine, the wires run up here, up to that switch right there. So now that, you know, they're running down, they go through that hole right there, and then out that way. So then you can run them, you know, underneath the truck. You know, try to keep them nice and tucked or whatnot. Use zip ties. Don't zip tie them too tight or you can damage the wiring. And then try to, you know, I like to wrap them around, you know, wiring and stuff like that. Uses less zip ties and then keeps it all tidy and stuff as well. So yeah, you can do that, route it that way, and then you guys can have a pretty cheap, I mean, this switch was, you know, maybe $5, something like that. Some wiring and, you know, about 30 minutes of your time, maybe, if that. Or, you know, if you're a little bit newer to this kind of stuff, you know, it might take an hour or something like that, but just give yourself some time. You need some basic tools, like you could use some wire strippers. So let me show you kind of what you'll need at the most as far as tooling goes. You could use T-taps to make it easier on you. That way you don't have to really get these tools. All you would really need are are pliers. So you could get these little T-taps, and these just, you know, one wire goes in and the other wire kind of butts up next to it. So let me see here. If you can see, one hole is completely through and the other hole kind of stops, but this side is deeper. Excuse me. So, you know, this kind of prevents you from having to use any tools other than like a basic set of pliers. This is really all you'd need, because once you put that on there, you just grab it, crimp it, and it pushes that metal piece through the wiring, which it has, you know, a little cutout so it doesn't damage the wiring. And then you just fold that over and you can tape it up. Now, if you wanted to do a little bit more, you know, the next step up, you could use, you know, butt connectors, so you can use butt connectors, and they have the heat shrink on them, so you can heat them up with a torch or a heat gun or whatnot. But going from there, then you would need, I'm just going to put that up there for now. Then you would need wire strippers, or, you know, you can use these wire strippers, and you're going to need a way to crimp the said butt connector. So, you know, that just, it's a little bit more tools. It's nothing crazy. I think those bottom strippers, like 20 bucks or something from AutoZone. These guys, I can't remember. It's been a while since I've had to buy them. So it all depends on your skill level and what you want. And then obviously you can solder it. And, you know, you can use a soldering gun and stuff like that as well with heat shrink. And that's the most ideal repair. You don't have to deal with corrosion. You don't have to deal with you know, water getting in the lines or damaging anything. And then on top of that, you don't have to deal with the wires possibly getting pulled out in the future. So it's just a really good, you know, professional quality repair. But I just wanted to at least kind of show you guys this, just in case you want the same thing done to your truck. Just flick that switch, and also while driving and even while stopped, it's exact moment. So if you see when I'm flipping the switch, it actually goes away and comes back immediately. So it's not going to cause any kind of damage or anything like that. And like I said, if you want to make sure that you crimp that connection really good, because if it were to go out while you're driving, if that wire were to pull out, you could potentially lose your ABS or something like that. So your ABS will actually pulsate while you're braking in like the rain to prevent skidding. So that's just something to keep in mind too. If you're not comfortable doing something like this, you know, maybe reach out to a friend or a family member or a mechanic or something like that. No guarantees that, you know, the mechanic's going to be able to do it or want to do it due to the, you know, liabilities and stuff like that that come with, you know, modifying vehicles. But just wanted to give you all a little update, and, you know, have a great day.